I'm done with the fret inlays. I sanded the whole thing down to 220 grits so it'll be smooth and won't have any scratch. So yes, the pros are pretty. So now I'm starting to hammer in the frets. The way I do it is basically just take a whole roll of frets, hammer it in, and then let's see. Oops, it didn't cut. And just taking that out. And making sure that it's settled in, right? So here I have the 24th fret going in. From the time it started, maybe 5 minutes. Basically, this is all the fret I have left. It was a 4 feet, I think, roll. So you can't be too generous on the fret ends because otherwise you'll run out. So now I have to go and clip the far side. So it actually, you need to kind of leave a little bit more than you think you need. Otherwise, there's not enough fret nub for this thing to bite in. And of course, these fret ends, I don't know if you could see it. If you don't pick them all up and you have a guitar sitting on here, it is going to screw up your body. So be careful with that. So these are the fret ends that I cut off, and these are just murder to the guitar. If you leave it, make sure you capture every single one of them. Toss that away. One thing I maybe forgot to mention was the rounding over the fretboard edge. So there is a corner, unless you round it off, basically just going across at the fretboard before the fret goes in, so you don't have too much of an edge on the fretboard, which makes it uncomfortable. The problem is you round it over too much, then you got an angle problem with the frets, because the frets, it kind of starts rounding over into the fretboard, but the frets don't bend that sharply. So yeah, got to be careful how much you round over the frets. So I do like to glue in my frets with super glue. I can't really show you how to do it because I need 2 hands. But basically, once I hammer it in, I will just run super glue across the fret, let the capillary action suck it in. I'll do it for each of the fret and just wipe it off. Right now, I've just done the top side of the fret. So you see some residue. Basically, I just, run a line of super glue in and just wipe it off. But there is a lot of cleanup that is required. But basically, this assures that the frets don't come out. And once the glue dries, I'm gonna make sure, absolutely sure it dries, that it won't stick to anything else. You can see that the bottom 2 frets, the 24th and the 23rd, and parts of the 22, are very, very shiny now, whereas the rest of the frets kind of dull. It's because I just took a steel wall to basically go across this thing. You will get scratches in the direction of the fretboard, so afterwards you're gonna have to go and kind of get in between and try to make the scratches in the longitudinal direction so it becomes less noticeable. All right, so it's now really nice and smooth. Over here it's still kind of, I could still feel a layer of super glue up here, whereas here basically it's really clean. Also, sometimes when you get super glue between the frets, you're gonna have to scrape it with a razor blade to make sure you can get all of the super glue out. So the fretting, hammering the fret is very, very quick, but it's from there that takes several hours to clean up the edges, fret ends, and also dress the frets so it's all the same height. Right? You would think that it's the same fret and it's a flat fingerboard, so you put it in. So once you hammer it in all the way down, it should be flat, but for some reason, it doesn't work that way. So you do have to basically go with the file across this whole thing, in order to make sure it's flat. Otherwise, you're going to have sort of rocking motion across the frets. Some frets will be higher than the others. So once you have the frets cut with the nipper, next thing you need to do is anything protruding on the side, you have to file it down, right? So basically this is a, I don't know what it's called, fret dressing file. You can basically hold on to it rather than a flat file like this, where you know, you can't really press down on it. So this is very, very convenient. So basically you'll be going down on this up to about like a 45-degree angle. You keep going on. So the fret ends, not sure if it's going to do a good job. So it's got a 45-degree bevel. Problem is, but this is all very sharp, right? So the next thing you have to do is round the frets over so there is no edge anywhere. And this is a fret dressing file, I think it's called, maybe a fret end. Basically, let's see, this one is round side on this one, this is a flat side. So with the flat side, at the very edge of the bottom of the fret where it's sharp and where it usually snags things, basically you have to file it down, and otherwise you use the round side so it doesn't hurt the fretboard, to kind of round it out and, you know, work on it. So basically that's 24 times 2, 48. Maybe takes 5 minutes a fret or a slot end. 48 times 5, 200, 240 minutes. So that's like what? 1, 2, 3, 3 hours worth of work that I'll be spending to round the fret ends. Okay, finished doing all the fret ends. It did not take me 3 hours. It took me 1 hour and 10 minutes. Oh, my hand's kind of shaky. All the fret ends are round, so it's nice and smooth. And also I've gone to look for all the high spots. So all the frets that are colored by a Sharpie, this one, this one, this one, are slightly high. So when you put a fret rocker on this thing, it's not rocking anymore. What the heck? Yeah, so here you can see that the frets are rocking, but this is very little, and this is a little bit high here. Let's see, in here, oh, this is, oops, is this real? Nope. A little. I can't even see what I'm doing. So if it rocks a little bit here, this is a little bit high. On this side, it's not. So it's pretty flat. So what I'm just going to do is just use the radius block. I think this is probably like a 220 or something like that. And then just go over it to see if I could get these frets to come down. Right, so basically it's just going down. Yeah, maybe zoom out. On this thing. And as you can see, as it's contacting, the Sharpie is coming off. Anyways, I gotta use both hands. Okay, the top of the frets are pretty flat now, so this won't rock anymore. It may rock just a little bit, but you're never gonna get it perfect. You know, you'll drive yourself crazy to try to get it perfect. But now that we have been filing, the top of the fret is right here, flat, right? So the problem here is if I could see what I'm doing, millimeter scale. Let's just say 100. Yeah, I'm shaking. Yeah, you have to. How do I stop from shaking? Here, brace myself. Yeah, a little bit better, maybe. No. Yeah, maybe a lot better here. So if you look at, let's see, the 100 is the center of the fret. Well, you could see that the leading edge of the fret is almost 0.5 millimeter. Is it? Yeah. Towards the bridge, right? So there is a slight intonation problem, although with my ear, I probably can't hear that difference in intonation. So basically what you need to get to is something like this. Again at 100, I don't know if you could see. But again, just looking at the shiny spot, right? There's hardly, maybe there is like, let's see, that is 1 millimeter, right? To 0.5 millimeter. So maybe about a quarter of an eighth or a millimeter is advancement, right? So basically that's the crowning of the fret, where you make the fret top sharper, so there is a limited contact area. And in doing that, basically you need to protect your frets and triangular file. I don't know if you could see this. It's a triangle, and it actually has sharp teeth on these corners, but I just grounded it down, and basically going on like this to sort of make the fret sharper, right? In order to get to this, to get the intonation. So that's probably gonna take another hour. Okay, so let's see. So we started with this, right? So when I filed the top of the fret, basically you're cutting off the sort of the peak of the fret, the rounded part, so it becomes flat. And now after that, I use a triangular file to try to, where's my finger? There you go. Try to make this strip of flatness as thin as possible. But then of course I don't want to erase it completely, because that's established the top, right? So if I file it down so you can no longer see it, then the top of the fret went down. So I don't want to do that. So after you all do all of that, basically you just take a steel wool and then you just polish it, right? So I'm not sure if you could see the fret end. Sorry, shaky. Basically you get the frets to look like this, right? I mean, it feels really nice on the ends. It feels really smooth compared to something like this, which is very abrasive. You know, if you choke on this, you'll probably hear the string going over it. Whereas if you choke on this, there's no resistance, right? So anyways, that's fretwork. So it took me roughly an hour to crown all the frets. And at this point, it's not polished. Let's see. So you might still be able to see a thin stripe of, you know, the flat part of the fingerboard. But so all in all, today, let's see, working on the fret ends, what, hour and a half? Filing the fret down, maybe 30 minutes, 2 hours. Is that right? Probably another hour to basically crowning the file, so crowning the frets. That's 3 hours. Probably another hour until I'm completely finished with this, with polishing and all those kind of thing. So that's what, 4 hours? I think I'm doing the math right. But even if before I got there, you're probably talking about hour, 2 hours of preparatory work until the fret goes in, or as the fret goes in. And if this was a used guitar, basically you have to take out all the frets. Some frets are notoriously hard to come out. You have to be careful if it's glued in. It's gonna chip out and all that kind of thing. So basically, it's half a day just to do this fret. So that's why when you take it to a repair shop or something like that for fret refret, that's like $400 or $500, I think it costs. It is a lot of labor.